Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's class. Today, we are going to discuss our beautiful poem, The Geography Lesson by Zulfikar Ghosh. Before we start discussing the poem, let us talk about the poet, Zulfikar Ghosh. So, what do you know about Zulfikar Ghosh? Zulfikar Ghosh is a novelist, a poet, a short story writer, an autobiographer, a journalist, an educationist, essayist, and a literary critic. Okay, so he has wide experience in all areas of literature, creative writing, teaching, not only in school but in colleges, universities, etc. Okay, do you know where he was born? It's very special to know about that. He was born on March 13th, 1935 at Sialkot, India, the present Pakistan. The place is now in Pakistan. And he grew up in the British India and emigrated to England in 1952. Since 1969, he has lived in Austin, Texas, and he is known as a Pakistani American author of novels, poetry, and criticism, and he writes about the cultural alienation. All right, so now let us see little things more about him because it's important for us to understand this poem, geography lesson. Okay, Mr. Kosh grew up as a Muslim in Sialkot and in largely a Hindu Mumbai, and then moved with his family to England. He graduated from Keele University, England in 1959 and married Helena de la Fontaine, an artist from Brazil. Then, in 1969, he moved to the United States of America to teach at the University of Texas, from which he retired as a professor emeritus in 2007. Koch became a US citizen in 2004. Now let me tell you about his novels and the poems. Sometimes you may bump on some of his works and it'll be very nice to read them. Okay. Koch's first novel was Contradictions, which was published in 1966. Explores the differences between Western and Eastern attitudes and way of life. This is a very important theme in all his writings, the differences in cultures. So, in The Murder of Aziz Khan, 1967, a small farmer tries to save his traditional land from the greedy developers, which is a problem even today. The trilogy, The Incredible Brazilian, comprising The Native, published in 1972, The Beautiful Empire in 1975, and A Different World in 1978, present the picturesque adventures, often violent or sexually perverse, of a man who goes through several reincarnations. Several births. Okay. Ghore's other novels include Crumb's Terms, 1975, Halme's Investigations into the Bogart Script, 1981, A New History of Torments in 1982, Don Buono in 1983, and Figures of Enchantment in the year 1986. The Triple Mirror of the Self in 1992, and Shakespeare's Mortal Knowledge, a reading of the tragedies, 1993. These are some of his major works, long compositions. All right, when we talk about his poems, which include a collection The Laws of India, 1964, Selected Poems, 1991, and 50 Poems, 2010, are often about the travels and the memories of the self-aware alien. Okay, so he was transcending from one culture to the other, the pre-independent India, then Pakistan, then America, sorry, then England, then America, and he doesn't find, though the humanity is one, why people follow different cultures, different differences in opinion, culture, predicament, political aspirations, religious beliefs, etc. These themes or these ideas were quite haunting for him, and he felt quite often an alien and kind of conditions everywhere. Alienation, we can see, okay? Isolation, or apart from others, something like that. All right. So then now, he also wrote the autobiography called The Confessions of a Native Alien, 1965. All his works have an underlining theme of alienation, okay, or isolation, or marginalizing from the main culture of the society, or uh, dividing from the main strata, some kind of a uh, loneliness of a man of different culture, or he was so curious about the disintegration in the world. All right, so now the theme of the poem, a geography lesson. It tells about the disintegration and discrimination in the society and in the world altogether on various parameters and the meaninglessness of the same. Okay, we divide ever on different issues, different factors, different problems, different attitudes, and that is ever widening. All right, the differences are not getting reduced, but the differences are increasing as the culture or the society goes complex. Okay, so in the world, what all thousands of problems are there in the world among different communities, different race, different religion, different states, different countries, and there are immense amount of number of problems and differences and disintegration, distractions, etc. But have we ever thought why this difference is there? We are from the same human race, same human beings, with almost the same features physically and mentally as well, we can say, for a greater extent. But we are living in different parts of the geographical locations. That's the only difference. And we are speaking different languages. That is based on the geographical locations, right? Or the intermixing of people, commune development of a community based on a common factor. But what I don't understand is why the human race has to divide, disintegrate, and destroy each other or one another when we are from the same human race. We are not animals. Okay, so this is one of the major themes of almost all his works, and in particular, this poem, the geography lesson, is telling about this disintegration, this confusion, this disorder, this fight, this quarrel, this distraction, this lack of unity. This is what he is talking about. All right, so have you heard of the concept of Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam? Our Sanskrit saying is there, so which tells about treating the human beings in the world as the members of the same family. What a beautiful concept, right? So your members of the family may quarrel, they may have difference of opinion, but they are united together all the time, right? They never separate themselves. Such a big joint family the world is, and what on earth we divide and fight and destroy each other? That's really kind of a question, a puzzle which we are not able to answer or solve even in the 21st century. Rather, we realize that these differences are increasing day by day when the society is getting more complex. Have you ever tried to think why these differences are? Mainly, we can conclude that these differences are not simply based on cultural differences or racial differences. Mainly, these differences can be because of our greed for more. That is greed for wealth, greed for power. Okay, this may be the two reasons. As we learned in the first lesson, the Christmas present, the soldiers, the enemy soldiers, never wanted to fight against each other or one another and destroy themselves. Rather, they wanted peace. But who just wants is destruction? It's a greed for power, position, wealth, etc., or the high-end egoism. Okay, I'm everything. I'm the honor of everything. But we don't realize the fact that we are one among the millions of species coexisting in nature, right? We are only one among. We are not the masters of the earth. We are one among the million insignificant species on earth. Okay, with this understanding, let us move forward. So in the mother earth, everybody is same, one and the same, no differences. You are not big, I'm not small, right? So there's a poem about the mountain and the squirrel. In that there are two lines telling that the mountain and the squirrel are equal. They are not judged based on their sizes or their abilities. They are judged based on their position as one living creature on earth, okay, or one object in nature, as all are the sons and daughters of God, if you believe in, or all have equal right on earth. No, nobody is more equal. Okay, all are equal. Okay, so in that it is said, if the squirrel cannot carry a mountain on his back, neither can the mountain crack a nut. Okay, mountain is so huge, gigantic, right? But it is not able to crack a nut, break a nut. Only a small, tiny squirrel can do that, all right? But the tiny squirrel likewise cannot carry the forest on its back. It's so small. So each one has its own significant role to play, not more important or less important. So this is what we say in nature, everybody is equal. There's a natural law of equality. But human beings, one among these million species, fail to understand this basic principle of nature. We confiscate, grab, divide, fight, destroy, and increase the poison of hatred, ill feeling, etc., among others. So the poem is based on this, and the poet doesn't understand why we do this. Okay, and the poem is written in the background of a flight journey. Okay, a person is flying or traveling in a jet plane, right? And he is looking down onto the earth and observing the things, all right, on earth. Okay, so this poem is divided into the three parts of the journey, or three heights the person traveling in a jet reaches. Okay, one is just above the land when the plane takes off. Then it is when he reaches 10,000 feet high, how the earth appears, and then he reaches 6 miles high. Okay, do you think that there'll be a different view when you reach different heights in the sky in a plane? Of course there will be. Okay, so when we are on earth, we have a direct view about the things. When we are above the earth, we will have a clearer picture, and when we go to higher and higher, the picture will be more immense. Okay, immense things, lot of areas can be seen as symmetrical. Okay, completely in order. Okay, so this is what the background of the poem. Once again, the background of the poem is a person, presumably the writer, is traveling in a jet plane, and he observed the land, earth down, at various distances, okay, various heights, and he thinks about it, how the world appears, or how the earth appears at different heights in the sky when we look downward. And he starts thinking about the earth is a wonder, same, it looks so orderly, but why the people are in disorder. Okay, so let us go on with the poem. Hope you understood the general meaning of the poem. Now, please read with me. Open the textbook and take that particular page. Let us read together. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had, seeing it scaled 6 inches to a mile. There seemed an inevitability about what on earth had looked haphazard, unplanned, and without style when the jet sprang into the sky. Okay? Now, when the jet reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country had cities where the rivers ran and why the valleys were populated. The logic of geography, that land and water attracted man, was clearly delineated when the jet reached 10,000 feet. And now, when the jet rose 6 miles higher and further higher, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. But it was difficult to understand that the men on earth found causes to hate each other, to build walls across cities, and to kill. From that height, it was not clear why. Okay, so a general understanding. In the first 2 stanzas, he is describing his travel in jet. When he looks down on the earth, what is the difference in the sight that he sees. Okay, and in the last stanza he concludes giving a metaphoric meaning connecting to human behavior. Okay, the scene on earth at a varying distance in the sky and connecting it to the human behavior on earth. Okay, the negative behavior of human being, right? The behavior of, the attitude of hate and divide. All right, with this understanding, shall we read it once again? Okay, when the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had, seeing it scaled 6 inches to the mile. There seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked haphazard, unplanned, and without style when the jet sprang into the sky. See the first line and the last line in the stanza repeated. Now, when the jets reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country had cities where the rivers ran and why the valleys were populated. The logic of geography to say that land and water attracted man was clearly delineated, okay, delineated when the jet reached 10,000 feet. Then, when the jet rose 6 miles high further, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. But it was difficult to understand that the men on earth found causes to hate each other, to build walls across cities, and to kill. From that height, it was not clearly why. This is what the very poignant, powerful question penetrating into our hearts and minds and our conscience, why we people are hating and dividing and destroying and creating walls among ourselves in different forms. Okay, we'll discuss that a bit later. Now let's go back to the lines. Okay, are you comfortable? Did you get a very general meaning about the poem and what the poet is trying to tell at the last? Okay, so we're going to explain the scene that we get about the earth when we are flying higher and higher in a jet plane. All right. So when the jet sprang into the sky, jet is springing into the sky. Spring means a jump forward or jump across, a leap. Here, the taking off of the uh, jet plane. What is a figure of speech here? It's a metaphor, right? When the jet sprang, jet cannot spring. Okay, springing is done by some devices or some animals or such kind of movement. Okay, so a tiger sprang into, a tiger sprang upon. All right, so jet taking off is compared to the springing of a beast of prey. Okay, so it is a metaphor. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had. That means when we just took off, we have a very clear idea about the city, the buildings, the population, lot number of people, and bigger population needs bigger amenities, bigger facilities, bigger housing, building, factories, and everything. So it was very clear. We had a very clear picture about each and everything, specifically why the city has developed so much to contain the population. Okay, or we have industries, shops, and infrastructure, and everything was very clear because we were very close to it. Okay, so when the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear when the city had developed, why the city had developed the way it had. That means the city had developed the way it had to contain the multitude of population, okay, the civilization. So it was very clear to us. The view was very clear, one to one, very precise. Okay, and if you take the scale of the distance, seeing it scaled 6 inches to mile. Okay, in that scale of distance, we could find that, or at a closer distance of the earth, we could find everything very clear on the earth. Okay, and why the city has developed that way. Now, there seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked to have haphazard, okay, haphazard. So he says, when we are closer in our observation to the city, means we are at a lower height in the jet, just above the land, we will have a very clear view, precise view about the earth and its infrastructure, its terrible human population, all the civilization, entire civilization, okay, the marks of civilization. And we come to realize that it is very inevitable. Inevitable means unavoidable. It is a must to have. It is very necessary, okay, to have such a kind of haphazard means disorder, confusion, right? So when we look at on the earth, we see people running here, they are working here, infrastructure, factory running, all in disorder and dirt, it appears like. Later we realize that we have many number of population, lot of things are required, civilization, infrastructure, factories, shops and schools and everything. So it looks like all are constructed or placed in a very haphazard manner, disordered manner. All right. So it's inevitable, unavoidable. About what on ground? Had ground means earth. Looked haphazard, unplanned. It looks like it had no planning. It's all scattered here and there. Unplanned and without any style, without any taste of aesthetics. All right. When the jet sprang into the sky, when we were so closer to the earth, and when we look upon the earth, we will find that everything is placed very haphazard, in disorder. Lot of people, lot of things, lot of mark of civilization, buildings, constructions, all things appear to be very disorderly. Okay, but it is very essential as well, we understand, because it contains a lot of human population. All right, now let's go to the second stanza. Before that, you see one figure of speech there, line 1 and the last line in the stanza is a repetition, right? The same line is repeated to tell that when we were so close to the earth, when we are so close to human population, we understand how we look at it. Okay, Closer we are not able to understand, then at a distance we have a enlightenment, consciousness, understanding, more meaning about what we are doing. So closer we are not able to understand the people. When we go higher, we really understand the negative attitude of people, the humanity, what mistake we do. All right. So we can say the figure of speech is repetition. When the jet sprang into the sky, repeated repetition. A word or a part of a sentence or a group of words or even a sentence is repeated in a poem. It is called repetition. Now let us look at the rhyme scheme of the first stanza. Sky, city. Sky, I-A, city, B. It had, C, mile, D. Ability, city, ability. Okay, again, B. Half a set, had, half a set. Together. Style, mile, together. Sky, sky, together. Okay, so we can identify the rhyme scheme there. Now let's see next stanza. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, we went higher at a higher state or condition. How do we have the vision about the earth? How can we see the earth? When the jet reached 10,000 feet, means when we are away from the human presence of population or earth, it was very clear why the country had cities where the rivers ran. We had a better, clearer view about the geographical details on earth, that we could see the rivers, larger water bodies upon the bank of which the cities developed with the buildings and infrastructure, and we can see a lot of valleys where human population is very high. Okay, you remember Indus Valley civilization. We can see that all the civilizations in the world, Mesopotamian, Indus Valley, all these civilizations flourished or grew up on the banks of a river and in the valleys. We know why these are very important for their living, right? Agriculture, water bodies, then land area for agriculture, where all the civilizations developed. So when we are at a higher position, we have a much more wider view about the earth, and we see cities and rivers and the valleys, and where the population is more, we see the group of buildings, cities, rivers, etc. That is the logic of geography. What is the logic of geography? Human beings flourish, the civilization will flourish or grow on the banks of the river. That means the land and water attracted men. It was clearly delineated. Delineated means portrayed or outlined or drawn or shown or depicted or described. Okay, from such a height of 10,000 we could see the landscape very well, precisely. A larger geographical area where the rivers are running upon the banks, a lot of cities are emerging or flourish, and human population is attracted by valley, land and water. This is very clear. That is the logic of geography. Okay, why human beings presence is more seen in specific geographical locations, like where there are rivers, where there are valleys. Okay, the civilizations flourished, grew on these special geographical areas. That's very clear how human beings have emerged so numerous in number on these specific geographical areas. I could understand when I reached 10,000 feet. Higher I went, clearer my view about the earth and the people. But there's one thing that I couldn't understand. I never got a clear idea about. What was that? When the jet rose 6 miles high, further, higher, much higher, it was clear the earth was round. I had a very vast geographical area and found the water and the earth, the oceans and all together, and I felt the complete shape because I am out of the earth. All right. So the earth was round and that it had more sea than land, I understood. But only one thing I could never understand was, it was difficult to understand that the men on earth found different causes to hate each other, to build walls and separate them, across the cities and kill themselves because they have mental barriers. They create big worlds of hatred in their mind, jealousy in their mind, for power, for territory, for land, for very many things out of their greed. And from that height, it must be very clear to me, but it was not at all clear why human beings are hating each other, dividing themselves, disintegrating, destroying, and what is the cause of this. When I go higher and higher, I knew more and more about the people, the earth, why they settled down in certain areas, etc. was very clear. But from that height, even, I'm not able to read the mind, the attitude of the people, why people hate and divide. We know in the whole world, people fight each other or one another because of their narrow mindedness of class, race, region, language, country, power, etc. You remember about, you must have read about apartheid, racial discrimination, and I think this week such a kind of rebellion is going on in America because of Mr. Floyd's death and or lynching and death and all right, we can see countries are fighting against each other either for race or for religion or for language or for territory or because of jealousy or fear about the dominant power of the other country, etc. But what is that jealousy? Why people feel jealous about others and fight and divide and destroy each other without realizing that this jealousy will lead to their own death, not their benefits. Okay, we think that money can buy everything, riches can buy everything, land can buy everything. If you have more power, it's everything. But the richest resource of a person, the essence of a person is love and compassion, fellow feeling, consideration for others, kindness for others. And the poet doesn't understand why people hate each other. They create walls in their minds, walls geographically, like a Chinese wall, we can say Berlin Wall, and we divide frontiers. We have frontier issues, border issues. We divide and create. This is India, this is Pakistan, this is Bangladesh, this is that country, this country, and we are creating a lot of divides in our hearts and minds based on silly matters. And we have to break off all the walls and reach out to the great genuine feeling of love, care, and humanity, because we are only one race, that is human race. People forget that, and for silly matters they fight and divide, and the poet doesn't understand why this divide. Let us make the globe as a single race, human race, a religion as humanity and compassion, not anything else. Let us work for such a great world. This is what the pain of the poet in his heart, and this is what he wants to bring in the world: universal brotherhood and global peace. I think you got the poem well. That's it, all about it. Thank you. Have a great day. If you have any doubts about it, please reach out to me, and stay safe. Take care. Have a great time.